In the afternoon of December 5, 2017, Belgian student Sander Wout sits behind his computer. He should be studying for his PhD, but instead he is browsing Twitter. A tweet has caught his eye and won't leave his mind. To showcase the data storage capabilities of DNA, the renowned scientist Nick Goldman hid access to a crypto wallet inside a strand of DNA 3 years before. We will get to how this works and how this technology could potentially solve a global issue later, but for now you should know that it contained 1 Bitcoin and it was yours to keep if you were able to decode the DNA. When Goldman started the challenge, a single Bitcoin was only worth around $200 and nobody had been able to retrieve it. However, in the last few months, the price of a single Bitcoin had surged by almost 6,000% and it was currently worth around $12,000. That's why Goldman prompts his followers to give it another shot. But he warns, there are now less than 50 days left to complete the challenge. Sander is totally captivated by the idea of retrieving this Bitcoin. How cool would it be if he would become the first person to decode the DNA? And man, could he use the money.
I was already super fascinated by DNA and two, already quite knowledgeable because I ended up doing a master's degree in this. I ended up doing a PhD with a lot of DNA-based work in it.
So even though he has lots of studying to do, he decides to reach out and he replies to the tweet. With some hard work and the right equipment, 50 days should be enough, right? But what he doesn't know is that a large professional lab has similar plans and enters the competition as well. Sander is competing against a giant and he doesn't even know it. When Sander wakes up the next day, he jumps right back behind his computer, but he is quickly met with disappointment as he sees that he did not get a reply to his tweet. He goes about his day, but all he can think of is the Bitcoin challenge. Then, when he gets home, he has an unread message in his Twitter DMs. Nick Goldman himself has reached out.
Dear Sander, thank you for showing your interest in my Bitcoin challenge. I would be happy to send you a sample to take a crack at it, but before I do, please provide me with a good set of reasons as to why you are qualified for the job. Kind regards, Nick Goldman.
His heart starts racing. Sander may be a student, but he is doing a PhD in microbiology and he knows more than just a little about DNA. Confident that he can crack the code, he writes a letter to Goldman summing up all his qualifications. Goldman receives the letter and decides to send out a sample to Sander's home in Belgium. But at the same time, a sample is also sent out to the big laboratory, where a team of professionals is eagerly waiting to get their hands on the Bitcoin as well. A week goes by when a brown envelope drops on Sander's doormat in Belgium. Inside the envelope is the DNA sample, and hidden inside the sample is access to the Bitcoin wallet. The stakes get even higher as the Bitcoin bull run continues. The price of a single coin now sits at a staggering $17,000. With the challenge now ending in less than 40 days, it is time for Sander to put his money where his mouth is. But in order to read the DNA sample, he needs equipment. Luckily, his colleagues at Antwerp University, where he is conducting his research, are happy to provide him with the right machines. Now Sander has everything he needs and he gets to work. But how is it even possible that this DNA sample contains access to a crypto wallet?
If you think about it, theoretically it makes a lot of sense. If you think about DNA, what is the main task of DNA? It is storing data about an organism and making sure that it will be passed on to the next generations. So DNA is really the information storage of all living organisms.
But it is also possible to store computer data by writing this information onto synthetic DNA. All computer files consist of ones and zeros, known as binary data. DNA, on the other hand, consists of 4 chemical bases: A, C, G, and T. By encoding binary data into sequences of these 4 bases, scientists can translate digital information into a biological format. Nick Goldman had published a research paper on how he was able to hide the Bitcoin inside the DNA sample, and the guidance Sander got was pretty simple. Just repeat all the steps from the paper, but in reverse. Weeks go by and the competitive lab is still eagerly waiting on their sample. Sander has a sample, but is unable to make real progress. He is stuck, and he decides to call in the help of one of his friends at university. The price of a single Bitcoin is fluctuating like crazy and has now dropped back to $9,500. Less than before, but still very much worth the effort. While consuming bottomless coffees and countless instant noodles, they go on a 16-hour hackathon in a final attempt to hit the jackpot.
But unfortunately, we were not able to decode everything yet. So I cycled home and I was like, okay, whatever, I give up for the day. But at night, before I went to bed, I had one more genius idea and I thought like, okay.
Because he was working on an old laptop, he had to use very strict filtering criteria to prevent his computer from crashing. But this strict filtering might have caused him to discard valuable data. Every time he hit the analysis button, his computer would freeze for 2 hours because it did not have enough power for smooth decoding. Excited and hopeful, he removes the overly strict filtering criteria and lets the analysis run overnight. The next morning, he wakes up and sees that there are 5 files stored on his desktop. A text file, a PDF, and a few images. It had just been Christmas, but this felt like Christmas morning all over again. His heart pounds as he opens the first one, a text file.
Congratulations on sequencing and decoding the Davos Bitcoin Challenge, Nick Goldman.
With just 1 week left, Sander has managed to win the challenge. The price of a single Bitcoin now sits at $10,000 and Sander is able to transfer it to his own wallet. He is congratulated by Goldman, who informs him of a pretty incredible twist. Goldman mentions that a sample was also sent out to a competing professional lab, but that their package got delayed due to the busyness around all the Christmas mail. They had only received it 2 weeks prior and weren't able to decode the DNA yet. By some crazy luck, Sander had an unexpected advantage against this group of professionals. But with the price of Bitcoin currently at 60k, the question remains, does he still have it?
No, I don't have it. I actually immediately sold it. That's okay. It's a nice amount of money as a PhD student. If you look at how the market courses have gone, I would have been better off saving it. Let's be honest here. Like, I think the money was really an extra here. It's nice. It's of course a nice thing because I was also able to go on a holiday with my wife, and I spend a lot of time trying to decode this thing at night. So I also had to make up for this. I threw a nice party at the end of my PhD to also thank everybody in the group with whom I've been doing science. But to be completely transparent, I was much more happier by just solving this puzzle, being able to go up against the odds, because even though I had this background as a bioinformatician, a DNA specialist, it still was quite a challenge. And in these 1.5 months, I had to learn quite some new skill sets to get it done. For me, being able to just transfer it was more of a victory, showing that I was the first one to decode this 3-year-old puzzle than it was of claiming the money prize.
Scientists believe that in 3 years' time, we will generate so much data that we won't be able to store half of it. Data centers need to be cool and require enormous amounts of energy. They take up lots of space and degrade over time. DNA might just be the answer. It is nature's preferred storage method for a reason. For starters, it takes up a lot less space. In fact, it is theorized that the entire internet could fit inside a sugar cube. Furthermore, it generally does not need as much cooling and remains relatively stable over very long periods of time. Scientists have successfully extracted Neanderthal DNA that was over 38,000 years old. Sander's success in decoding the DNA really underscores the potential for DNA as a data storage solution. It is currently being seriously considered, and we may hear Sander's name many more times in the future as a pioneer who proved its capabilities. Please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel if you've made it this far, because it really helps the channel a lot. I make these videos all by myself and they take a lot of time, so any feedback or interaction is more than welcome. In any case, I really hope you enjoyed the video and I really hope to see you in the next one.